Hello and welcome to Jake's on First, the podcast where we solve all of baseball problems. The problem is that no one's listening. I'm joined by my co-host, Jake Hipple. What's going on, buddy?
Nothing.
What you been up to lately?
It's so weird. Can I do my theme song?
Yeah.
All right. It's 3 minutes long. Just kidding. It's only like 10 seconds. Ready?
I'm here for it.
Okay. Jake and Jake. 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 Jake's on First. Brought to you by Jake and Jake. Featuring Primetime. All right.
All right. You know what? We'll see if that makes the final cut. We might get copyrighted for that. Hipple, the fantasy baseball hot stove has so far been pretty cold. But we're trying to do winter meetings soon, right? When's that happen?
Winter meetings?
Yeah.
I don't know. My homework was Universal DH.
Well, in our fantasy league, Coelho just announced.
Oh, you mean for fantasy baseball?
Yeah.
That starts after football, so.
But we got to do winter meetings. So when is that coming up?
It's probably like a month.
So you don't want to do winter meetings till the end of January?
No, it'll probably be like mid-January.
Okay, because Coelho's ready to go. He released his keepers. Did you look at them?
I did not, but I'm looking at it right now.
I mean, his keepers are obvious, like who you would keep on that team. I don't know that releasing your keepers is that good of an idea, though. Like, I feel like that's like a card in your hand that you have that you don't tell people who you're keeping.
But I mean, if you're open to trading and you want to trade, you kind of let people know who you would have to pay up for, I guess, because you're wanting to keep them. So it's like, okay, he's going to keep that person. So I got to give up more for them. Whereas,
well, like obviously, if like someone's trying to get Arenado off your team, you know that like that's going to be a keeper regardless. But I'm talking about like the mid-tier, like borderline keeper guys. It's like I could keep them. I might not, and I could make you pay me a little more for them, or I can make you take your chances in the draft.
Like Corbin Burns.
Yeah, for example, on Coelho's team. But like, so I'm not going to release my keepers. I just feel like that's something I'm going to keep close to the vest moving forward, at least.
Yeah, I don't usually do that till a little later.
But he's the baseball, the MLB executive, so maybe he knows something that we don't.
Right. How many times has he won?
Zero, right? Zero. Well, his problem is he has Mike Trout, and Mike Trout is cursed that as long as Mike Trout remains out of the playoffs in real life, he will remain out of the playoffs in fantasy baseball. So,
it's so true, though.
it was important to get rid of him for my own team.
Oh, that was a great trade, right? You.
Oh, I got so much return on that trade. Like it was insane. When I look back at it now, it was so lopsided. I can't believe he let me do it.
It's Mike Trout.
I guess the Mike Trout you put on the rose tinted glasses for, but
I can actually get to the history of this league if you want to know who's won every year. Let's see. All right. It is this past year was 2019 was me, 2018 was Adam, and then this year was Adam again, right? Yeah.
Okay.
So it's been Adam, me,
keeper,
and Adam.
Yeah. So 3 years in the keeper league. Okay. Yeah. What was the Trout trade? It was like I sent him Mike Trout. And I think I got back in a pitcher. I don't remember who the pitcher was, but I think I got back Jack Flaherty, Juan Soto, and I feel like I got Charlie Blackmon in that trade, but Charlie Blackmon is on Coelho's roster, so I'm not quite sure when the other move happened.
There's been so many trades. I can't just look at your team and figure out who you got from him.
Yeah. I mean, I wouldn't spend the time doing that now, but it seems like, with that release, maybe some trades will get going here pretty soon. and as we start to look forward to the draft coming up in March.
Yeah.
So Hipple, the DH in the MLB, the designated hitter. What are your thoughts?
Well, according to Webster's dictionary, the definition of a designated hitter is a baseball player designated at the start of the game to bat in place of the pitcher without causing the pitcher to be removed from the game.
That's some good insight, Hipple. So I was looking into some of the history of it, at least, and it seems like the DH has been around, for a very long time and been proposed. Well, even being proposed as early as like 1890 or something,
1904,
like something crazy like that. And what it seems like ticked it off was the 1968 season, the legendary year of the pitcher. That's all like record ERAs. And I mean, I get why they tried to introduce some competitive balances at that point, because they lowered the mound and shrunk the strike zone after that season.
By the way, the strike zone used to be at the top of the shoulders.
That was the 1963 strike zone, right?
Yes, that'd be impossible to hit now.
That's insane. Yeah, think about like Garrett Cole throwing a ball at your shoulders for a strike at 100 miles an hour. Like no one's catching up to that.
No.
But then, yeah, like you said, in 1973, the AL voted to approve the DH on a 3-year trial basis and then never went back. The consequences of that were that batting averages went up, obviously, in the AL. But they claim, I think I saw that attendance also went up.
Yep.
I'm not sure if that directly correlates to the DH, that people were like, oh, yeah, the DH is hitting now, so I'm going to go to the game. But
I wonder how we could look that one up.
At least it said that attendance did go up in the American League.
I know but American League has also been newer, so you would figure it keeps going up. When did the American League first?
Could be. I couldn't give you a date on that. But then the National League would have had it. What was it, 1980 that they held a vote? And they weren't able to pass it by like one vote short because the Phillies owner was on a fishing trip and couldn't be there to vote in person. So he sent his representative, and then his representative basically chickened out at the last second and didn't vote. So the National League.
The full story is that the Phillies owner was on a fishing trip and his VP was supposed to vote yes for it. But they found out when they got there that it wasn't going to be implemented for another 2 years. And so then he should have just said yes, but then he was like, oh, I don't know. So then he couldn't get a hold of the owner, so he abstained. And then the Pirates didn't have an opinion, so they're just going to do what the Phillies did for some reason. So they abstained. So those were the 2 votes they needed for the majority.
Yeah, so it's crazy to think that like this wouldn't even be a debate just had cell phones been invented by 1980, because then they would have been able to contact the owner. So I guess the questions become then, now that we look at the National League likely getting a DH by 2022, is that a good thing for baseball or just kind of a neutral thing for baseball? Kind of like how I see instant replay more of a neutral thing for baseball. It really
instant replay is neutral until they learn how to use it.
That's probably true.
It's almost negative right now.
But we could do a whole other episode on instant replay. But as far as like DH, a lot of the arguments I hear for it, I don't get, I guess. And this is coming from someone who, was a pitcher in college and didn't hit for himself, and really was not a great hitter growing up. But I am still a firm believer that pitchers should hit.
By the way, American League was invented in 1901.
Okay, but I still don't know that accounts for like this attendance increase that you see after 1973.
No.
But
that was just fun fact time.
So I guess one of the biggest arguments I always hear that people, when they talk about the DH, is that it creates another roster spot. But it really doesn't.
No, it does, because you have the same roster space either way.
It doesn't, right? You still have the 25-man roster, but it also like
now.
Yeah, 26. Most teams, there's just not that many true DHs in the league right now. Maybe like 3 or 4. that I can think of off the top of my head. You know, David Ortiz and Edgar Martinez were the the poster boys for like the DH, you know, in their time. And now you have guys like Marcell Ozuna and Nelson Cruz and guys that are actually going to be, you know, paid money to DH on a team. But most teams just use it as like a rest day spot.
Yeah, the true designated hitters now. Let's see, you have JD Martinez, Nelson Cruz, Alvarez for the Astros. Ooh, Franmil Reyes,
So like
Encarnacion.
Right. So you maybe can get like 4, like 5, maybe 6 guys at most that are like true DHs, and that's all they do.
It's mostly rest day and platoons.
Right, but that's what I'm saying. It's like most teams are just going to use it, are just going to platoon it to give an outfielder some rest,
which extends their careers.
Yes, but is that a good enough? Like, is it extending the career at the cost of taking a career away from a younger guy?
But if that younger guy, if he can't play defense at age 22, then he's probably not going to last very long in the league.
Who said he can't play defense?
Well, if he can't,
if win his a job spot is being held up by a 38-year-old slugger,
if being held up by a 38-year-old, he's probably not good enough anyways.
But if the 38-year-old wasn't there because he can only play half the game, the 23-year-old who can play both sides of the game would be on the team.
And the team probably wouldn't be as good because they wouldn't be as good offensively.
And I guess that's the argument in the National League right now.
The problem is pitchers, man. If they cared at all about hitting, this wouldn't be an issue.
You see, I'm kind of in that boat too.
If they could bunt.
Yeah, if pitchers actually put work into hitting, and I think there's a mixed bag of opinions on whether pitchers like to hit or not. You got guys like Clayton Kershaw that are like, yeah, I love to hit. Like, I love to face the pitchers that I'm facing, and I want to be up there. Versus guys like Blake Snell, who had that video rant about, he was in the major leagues to pitch. He didn't want to hit. He didn't really see a point of hitting. So you definitely pitch. You get paid to play baseball. And I think if you're playing baseball, you should play baseball, and you have to play both sides of the field.
Yeah, I mean, because that argument is if everybody has their pros and cons. If you're a pitcher, your pro is you're good at pitching. The con is you can't hit.
Right.
I see. DH, he can't play good defense, but he can hit.
Right. And, I see it as kind of like the NBA conundrum of like the big man that can't shoot free throws. When you have like Dwight Howard or Shaq out there, you want those guys out there in the final seconds of the game, in their prime, at least, maybe not now with Dwight Howard, but in the prime, you want the guys out there. But if they get the ball and they get fouled, they're not going to make the free throw. So that's kind of like the argument that people talk about with pitchers or people pitching around a batter to get to a pitcher. So in that case, like, why aren't the pitchers blamed for a glaring weakness in their game? Why is the league at a whole blamed for making them hit?
That is a very good point I had not thought of.
Okay.
It's just developed to where you want good pitching, and if you'll take a guy that can't hit, and then the American League, the offense has become so popular and fun, and now we're out of the steroid era, so everybody wants more home runs, so you bring the DH for more home runs.
So is that getting towards like moving more towards the 3 true outcome form of baseball that has really gotten very boring? You have these super specialized pitchers that only pitch, and they are very good at only pitching, who are really good at striking out the batters who only hit. And so you're totally changing the roles here, and you are moving towards these 3 true outcomes, and the 3 true outcomes are boring. They are.
But the pitcher hitting literally strikes out. So the last two seasons, they struck out over 40% of the time and walked 3%. Pitchers have. And then on average, they're striking out like 35% of the time, whereas a DH does not strike out at that rate.
But I think the enjoyment and the magic in baseball is not in what's expected to happen. It's in those moments where Bartolo Colon picks up a bat and whacks one over the fence. That's what you tune into a baseball game for.
1 out of 1,000 at bats. That's what you tune in for.
Yeah. And that's the thing. 1 out of 1,000. And if you get to watch that live, you remember that forever.
Yeah, but the thing is, being a Braves fan with Ozuna having his year he had,
it is tough.
I personally liked it as half and half. You keep one half as the strategy and old school, and the other half is the new school offensive juggernaut. But after Ozuna doing what he's doing, and I don't want to see Soroka hit anymore or Newcomb, or the only guys I want to see hit are, Max Fried, DeGrom, Bumgarner, and there's maybe 3 more guys as pitchers you actually want to see him hit. The rest of them are just automatic out, and they can't do anything else.
Yeah, that's true. So do you think that, and this will kind of tune us into our bringing on our guest, I've heard arguments that this whole pitchers can't hit really takes its roots down in youth baseball too. So to kind of help us discuss that, we can turn to our bullpen tonight. Joining us is Adam Terranoni. He has coached some youth baseball in the past and was once a youth himself. So Adam, hello. You can unmute yourself. How's it going?
What's going on? What's going on, guys?
Prime time.
So we're talking about the DH, and as far as your coaching experience goes, you coached high school age players.
Yeah. Showcase players, from 11 and 12 all the way up to JV baseball and assistant varsity. So kind of wide spectrum.
Did you guys use DH at those levels?
Yeah. So it's like your travel ball rules, all that. And, a lot of the kids I saw, a lot of the kids are playing, your number one in high school is probably playing left field on his off day. So as far as, DH, these kids can swing it, just at Roswell High, our number 2 was our left fielder, and he was the 4-hitter batting, left-handed, cleaning up everything. And you didn't really think about the DH, when hearing y'all talk about it. It's just, you don't think of it as like Nelson Cruz out there. He's just another guy on your squad that, is going to get taken out of the game and go play first. So, as far as, seeing that in high school baseball, I didn't see it as much, but I think you're going to get to a point where kids are going to start looking up to these DHs and kind of putting the defensive and athletic aspect on the back burner, because they'll look at Nelson Cruz and say, I can do that too, and just swing the bat and practice 40 hours a week of swinging the bat.
So I get one thing that goes hand in hand with the DH, especially, we don't think about it at the major league level because we don't really use this term. But one thing that goes hand in hand with the DH is the dreaded term of the PO, the pitcher only. Well, you also coach youth sports. Like, how young do you see guys going towards pitcher only?
I mean, you could tell if somebody can hit by the age of 8. Honestly, but POs don't really start until not 13, probably 14, 15, 16, that range.
See, I don't like that. I think that's too young.
No, I mean, there's guys who they're freshmen in high school and they cannot hit a ball out of the infield, but they're a lefty who throws 74, and it's like, oh, yeah, that's a decent arm.
See, the guys that I knew in college that were POs in high school weren't. I won't comment on the personalities of POs being a PO for college and some of my high school summer ball life.
They are oddballs.
But the guys that I knew, especially in high school and college, that were POs early on, weren't that great of pitchers either. So it seemed to me that they were only POs just because that was like the position they sucked the least at. And so it makes you wonder if, are you a PO because your specialty is pitching, or are you a PO because that's the only way you're on the team?
Well, I mean, I could pitch a little also, but I never pitched because I sucked at it. So I just hit and play defense. So
Well,
those
see, that's the
POs
thing
are
that I
guys
think,
that
like,
can hit, but they suck at hitting, so they just pitch and play defense.
maybe that's the key there, that all pitchers most good pitchers can play another position, but not all position players can pitch.
No, but we can all pitch. It's just throw strikes. It's easy.
It's easy. It's that
Yeah.
easy.
But the pitchers that are athletes that can hit are the kids that are going D1 and getting drafted. The kids that, I mean, there's some at D2 and D3, but most of the kids at lower levels are the kids that aren't great athletes, so they had to become POs.
Yeah, and I think you lose that athletic aspect too. I mean, I always push for kids to play as many positions as they possibly can, as long as they can, because I mean, like a perfect example, I think, correct me if I'm wrong, at Hunter Green, you know, the dude throws 100 plus, and he was also playing shortstop as well in high school. It's just the dude's a freak athlete, and he's going to make it in the bigs throwing 100, but he's still an athletic dude on the mound. And I think POs lose sight of that sometimes, as well as DHs lose sight of that as well.
But those POs and DHs aren't the same athlete. Those guys that we have as POs are horrible athletes. The only thing they can do is they could throw a ball a little harder than other guys, and they could throw a breaking ball.
And the DH is not, because they're too unathletic to move in a position.
Yeah, and the DHs aren't necessarily great athletes either. Their skill is they can hit, but they can't play any defense. Like it's like I'd rather have nobody out there than them out there.
Shout out Casey Bell.
Exactly.
1 inning in the fielding range, 1 broken ankle, 1 error, never seen again at first base. Hey, if you're listening to this, Casey, I love you, dog.
All right. Well, I think that's about all we have time for tonight. Adam, thanks for joining us.
Had so many stats
to talk to us about the DH. Hipple, you can save your stats till next time.
Is it your bedtime?
It is my bedtime.
Dude, it's 7:50 where you are? 8:50 where you are.
I got to get up and practice being an athlete. So,
oh my God.
Stay out of that PO life.
Yep, that's the goal. All right, guys. Thanks for joining us, and we'll see you guys next time on Jake's on First.
Bye.
Bye.